Hi, this is Rolf Youngclass, and I'm speaking out in the September 29th, 2010 edition of the Haskell County Monitor Chief, Sublette, Kansas. Through most of the first decade of the 21st century, I was looking for a party that had candidates who would really represent my views. I'd given up on the Democrats a long time ago, and once I found out that compassionate conservatism was coming up short on the conservative part, I was really hoping a third party would be able to arise to compete with the Democrat and Republican parties. When I voted for George W. Bush for president each of his 2 terms, it was more of a vote against the Democrat who was running against him. There were some other parties' candidates I could have chosen, but I knew it would only make the Democrats, Al Gore in 2000 and John Kerry in 2004, 1 vote closer to the White House, and I was absolutely against either of them becoming president. The nice thing about the Tea Party movement is that it is not confined to the dictates of the leadership of one or the other of the 2 political parties. Third-party movements have had little long-term effect since the Republican Party came into existence and was established as one of the 2 major political parties. And I'm now seeing that it is important that a political movement not be pigeonholed into a political party having little or no chance of getting their candidates elected. The Tea Party movement isn't so much a conservative movement as it is a movement that represents the sentiment of many Americans who don't want manufactured candidates who have been carefully created in order to get elected. Most people see that there are a bunch of phonies in Washington who supposedly represent their constituents, but are either rubber stamping the White House's left-wing agenda or posing as opponents of that left-wing agenda while letting government get bigger and more out of control. As we have seen in many Republican primary elections in recent years, choosing an electable candidate, as recommended by some of the Republican Party leadership, has come to mean choosing the most liberal-leaning candidate and saying essentially that true conservative views are expendable for the sake of gaining a Republican majority. The Republican voters of Delaware decided 2 weeks ago that the categories of conservative and electable were not mutually exclusive. Choosing Christine O'Donnell over the left-leaning Mark Castle, their votes were an emphatic statement that the so-called electable candidate was the wrong candidate. Karl Rove and others can't seem to see that packaged candidates who represent the Republican Party but vote for the liberal left agenda are not acceptable. Republicans lost the majority in Washington in the House and Senate several years ago because so many of them were not true to the traditional values that are a trademark of the Republican Party. Nationally, this year's general election is looking to be more of a house cleaning than it was in 2006. For Republicans in the primary elections, many Republicans decided that they did not want to be represented by anyone who would in any way help out the Obama agenda. And going into the general election about 5 weeks from now, many of those candidates have a good chance to beat their Democrat opponent if they can stick to their beliefs and show the voters that their opponent will represent business as usual in Washington, D.C., and the detrimental effect it will have on the state or district they serve.